Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well this evening. I know I'm coming to you guys a little bit late. I was waiting for an injury report, and then it became clear that we're not going to get an injury report until probably pretty late. So I'll get to that when it's time to get to that. But I want to go ahead and do the routing guide post-mortem, even though I think we all know what's going on here. I don't know how many people are going to be informed by this video beyond what they already knew, but I know some people like it. So we're just going to go ahead and get through the routing guide postmortem for week number 17, even though, again, I think we all know more or less where the Seahawks stand. The more interesting angle here has to do with the draft pick considerations for the Rams pick from Atlanta than it does to anything to do with Seattle, because I think we all know where Seattle is right now in terms of the postseason. Please give this video a like when you get a chance, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, we're going to start with Thursday, and we're just going to go through the games and talk about any effect the games may have had. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today, get to it, and go have some fun with sports this year. All right, so starting with the Thursday games, we had the Cowboys beating the Commanders, which is not what we were hoping for, and it actually got kind of close too, so a little bit disappointing here. The reason why we actually wanted Washington to win is because of the draft pick stuff I was just talking about. As you can see, right now, Atlanta is sending their first-round pick, the 12th overall pick, to the Rams, and Dallas is picking just a couple spots behind that. If they had lost, they would have jumped ahead, which is beneficial to us. Now, we need Dallas to lose a game, and we need Atlanta to win their last game. We'll talk more about that in the future, but the problem is Dallas has their last game against the Giants, who are, if we're being perfectly honest here, very motivated to lose. So probably not happening. So we kind of needed Dallas to lose this game. Didn't happen. So unfortunately, that was not a great outcome. Lions-Vikings, unfortunately, kind of went the same way, although it does open up a little bit of a backdoor here. Excuse me. So the Vikings win, ending the Lions season. Now, I don't really have any strong feelings about the Lions season ending. Obviously, they're not a great team right now. If they had somehow made the playoffs, which was very unlikely, then I think they would have been an easy win for whoever played them. So I'm indifferent to them making it or not. If Seattle had matched up against them, I would have felt pretty great about that, but that was pretty unlikely because either we're going to be the 5 seed or we're going to be the first round bye. So I don't think that really matters at all. Now, the Vikings winning makes it very hard for their draft pick to fall below where Atlanta's is. They're currently at 17. Atlanta's pick is at 12. However, this outcome did open the door for the Lions pick to fall below where Atlanta's pick is. If Atlanta wins and Detroit loses, there's a pretty strong chance their pick will go ahead of Atlanta, which is desirable. So it's not all bad. And then we got Broncos Chiefs. We wanted the Broncos to win this game so the Chiefs pick would get elevated. We got what we wanted. Kansas City's pick is now sitting at number 9, so they're actually sitting there with a top 10 pick. We don't even need them to lose their last game anymore, but if they want to, they could guarantee a pick higher than Atlanta, regardless of what Atlanta does. All right, so that's Thursday. Saturday, Texans, Chargers. The only real consideration here was strength of victory. We beat the Texans earlier this year, and I don't think strength of victory has any real chance of mattering for the Seahawks at this point, but while we're here, we didn't really have anything else to root for, so this was a good outcome. Texans win. Ravens, Packers. The Ravens were a team that had a chance of having their pick go ahead of Atlanta's, But with that win, it becomes less likely. So now we need Baltimore to lose their last game, Atlanta to win their last game, and we need the strength of schedules to get scrambled to the point where Baltimore's falls below Atlanta's, where it's currently ahead by 0.006. So not overly likely, but still possible, still very much in play. But Baltimore winning this game kind of sort of, I don't know, I wouldn't count on it. And obviously Baltimore has a lot to play for in their last game. We'll see what happens with them, but at this point, the odds don't look overwhelmingly great that we're going to get what we want there. And we knew Green Bay was in the playoffs anyway, so nothing really gets affected there. So now we get to Sunday, Cardinals, Bengals. We did catch a little bit of a break here. This doesn't matter as much as I was thinking it would. I still would have preferred that the Bengals lose because it would have guaranteed that they would pick ahead of Atlanta. Because their strength of schedule is pretty good, we might need that. Fortunately, Atlanta won their game, so we don't need Cincinnati to lose a game, but it would have been nice if it came here. Now, we also kind of wanted Arizona to win just because they're starting to get really high up in the draft order. They're 5th. And if they lose this upcoming game against the Rams, which seems pretty likely, I could see them get elevated into the top 3 without anything too crazy happening. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Now, granted, I'm not overly worried about the Cardinals getting great draft picks. They're not the team that I think is necessarily going to break through with an infusion of blue chip talent, but I'd prefer they not have the higher pick if at all possible. So got that going on here. It's not a big deal at this point. Luckily, Atlanta bailed us out, but I do have my eye on things like that. Steelers, Browns. Again, I don't think strength of victory is likely to matter for Seattle very much, but we did beat the Steelers, so we kind of wanted them to win. Now, there are some other things being brought to the table here where if the Steelers had won, the division would already be locked up, so Baltimore would have nothing to play for in the last game, so they would probably just kind of throw the game. Of course, maybe the Pittsburgh Steelers would throw the game back because they don't need the win either. I don't know. So I don't really know if this one matters all that much. Obviously, the Steelers are not in range of having their pick fall below Atlanta, and Cleveland's is already locked up, so I'm inclined to believe this game doesn't really matter anymore. Saints, Titans, though, felt real good about the Titans going into that fourth quarter, and unfortunately they blew it. And now it opens the door for New Orleans, who is hot right now. New Orleans has won 4 games in a row. If New Orleans wins one more game against Atlanta this week, that could be kind of devastating. Maybe devastating is a little bit too harsh of a word, but you've now got this New Orleans team that is red hot going up against an Atlanta team that's also pretty hot right now, if we're being honest. But New Orleans' pick could go behind Atlanta's pick on top of the damage they would do by just beating Atlanta, hoping that Atlanta comes through. They are playing at home. New Orleans, they're still not a great team, even though they've won a few games in a row now. Hopefully it comes through. But right now we're talking about a situation where one game and a tiny sliver of strength of schedule is the only thing that separates their picks. So hoping that works out. Jaguars, Colts, the Seahawks beat both of these teams. Now, Jaguars winning gives them a little bit of a strength of victory edge over San Fran, but like I said, I don't think that strength of victory stuff is going to matter at all at this point. I don't think there's any scenario where we get down to a strength of schedule tiebreaker. So I'm going to say this one was fine either way. Buccaneers, Dolphins is interesting, right? So we now know, because Tampa Bay found a way to lose this game, that if Carolina had won, they would have won the division. They would have locked it up. So therefore, that game would have mattered if Carolina was thinking about things like that. Doesn't seem like they were, and we beat them anyway. Now, because of this game's outcome, because Tampa Bay lost, it is now overwhelmingly likely that Carolina wins the division one way or the other. Even if Carolina loses on Saturday, Carolina still wins the division as long as Atlanta beats New Orleans, which I guess that's okay. I mean, we did just beat Carolina by 3 scores. But I do think that Tampa Bay right now, if they had somehow found a way to back into the playoffs, would be the world's easiest out. They are playing so bad right now. it feels like a free win. And I say that even knowing that in order to get to the playoffs, they would have to beat Carolina, but they have been so bad for like 2.5 months now, it feels like. Unplayably bad. So we do give up the opportunity to do that in all likelihood if we lose to San Fran, but I'm not too wrapped up into that, because another consideration is that now Tampa Bay, it is possible they end up picking ahead of Atlanta, which is valuable. We need them to lose against Carolina, which I think is likely, and then we need Atlanta to beat New Orleans, but Tampa Bay's pick could slot ahead of Atlanta's, which would be nice. Patriots, Jets, there wasn't really anything here. I didn't think anything of this game. I don't think this outcome mattered one way or the other. Giants, Raiders, this was the ultimate kind of tank bowl. Seattle didn't play either team this year. I guess San Fran played the Giants, but again, strength of victory, strength of schedule, that kind of stuff only really counts for draft picks now. I don't think there are any like tiebreakers going on with that. So, I mean, it gives the Raiders probably the first overall pick, which obviously, if the Giants had lost, I think their their first overall pick would have been locked. So, depends on how you feel about that. I guess the number one pick is going to be in the AFC. I guess that's kind of good, but I don't know. It's probably not worth thinking about. Eagles, Bills. So, because of this outcome, the Eagles are still in play for the 2 seed, and the Bears could still fall to the 3 seed, depending on what happens next week. Now, do we want that? I think we want the Eagles to stay in the 3 seed to at least set up a possible match with the Rams, because the Eagles are a bad matchup for the Rams, and that would open up a scenario where the Rams, against all odds, could be a one-and-done team very easily. So I think we actually wanted the Bills to win this game, but I'm not sure. I believe the Eagles would have basically been stuck in the 3 seed at that point, because they can't fall to 4, and I think the Bears would have had an insurmountable lead at that point. But we can get that outcome anyway this upcoming week with good outcomes. So I think we actually wanted the Bills to win, but that's contingent on your belief the Eagles can beat the Rams, which I don't think the Eagles are playing great football right now, but that's a good matchup for Philly. Bears, Niners, heartbreaker. Could have just ended the 49ers' chances of winning the division right then and there. They were 2 yards away. Didn't happen. Definitely a game that shows that the Niners are just, they're a cheat code on offense right now, man. It's like they've found some kind of cheese tactic that teams cannot stop. And I hope that this Seahawks team has a plan to stop it. I'll say that. So, I mean, hopefully we learned a lot from that game, right? Hopefully McDonald was watching this game, taking notes. Now, the other side of that is that it does open the door for the Bears to fall to the 3 seed, which I would rather avoid. I think that the Bears would be fodder for the Rams in the first round, so I don't want to potentially set that game up. So I hope that the Bears can find a way to get the 2 seed next week, which seems likely, but we'll talk more about that later. And now we have to deal with the Niners potentially having everything to play for this week. Well, not potentially, they do. Of course, last night kind of made up for it. The most unexpected outcome imaginable. Not only does Atlanta drag their pick down significantly for the Rams to take, but now the Rams are in a scenario where they may end up, like, if things don't go their way on Saturday or even Sunday, they may end up playing the Eagles in the first round. They may need to beat the Cardinals, and if they don't need to beat the Cardinals, it's because they're already locked into the 6, and it's a very good chance Philly's going to be locked into the 3. So, I mean, it doesn't make a huge difference on that end. Excuse me. But it does make a difference, and the draft pick ramifications are huge, and it opens a lot of doors that were closed before, but we'll talk more about that in a future video. So that is the Rooting Guide Postmortem. Life is good. Let me know what you guys think. Overall, a really good week. Not perfect by any stretch, but we got what we needed, and we know what Seattle has to do, and that would have been true regardless of how these other games went for the most part. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Everybody have a great rest of your night. There will be another video later for the injury report, by the way, so keep an eye on that.